Hi, I'm John, a 40-year-old doctor living in California. Even though I spend my days helping people heal, I've always had a deep love for storytelling. Here on this channel, I share stories that touch the heart, calm the mind, and sometimes even spark the imagination. So sit back, relax, and let me take you on a journey through words. Welcome to my world of stories. Today's story is Rising Through the Storm. The beginning. In the small town of Pine Hollow, nestled between the misty hills of Oregon, lived a boy named Elijah Carter. He was born on a cold January morning, the kind where the ground cracked with frost and the air felt like glass. His mother, Dana, was just 18, barely more than a girl herself. His father, Marcus, was gone before Elijah turned to a shadow in his early memory. Elijah grew up in a run-down two-bedroom trailer on the edge of town, surrounded by pine trees and silence. Life was never easy. His mother worked double shifts at the local diner, flipping pancakes and pouring coffee for truckers and tired mill workers. She came home with aching feet and a fake smile, always telling Elijah, "We're gonna be okay, baby. Just gotta keep pushing." By the time Elijah was 6, he had already learned how to pour his own cereal, walk himself to school, and lie to teachers about why he didn't have his homework. "Mama was sick," he'd say, or "I forgot it at my dad's house," even though he hadn't seen his father in years. At school, Elijah was quiet. He wasn't the kind of kid who got in trouble, but he wasn't a star either. He blended into the background like the old paint on the classroom walls. Teachers noted he was smart but distracted, often staring out the window like he was watching a world no one else could see. But Elijah had a spark, something buried under the weight of survival. He loved stories. At the town's tiny library, he would sit for hours, flipping through old copies of Treasure Island, The Outsiders, and Hulls. The characters felt like friends. They were fighters, misfits, dreamers, and so was he. Middle school shadows. By the time Elijah reached middle school, the problems at home had deepened. His mother had started drinking, not a lot at first, just a glass of wine here, a beer there. But soon, it became bottles hidden in kitchen cabinets and slurred goodnights. Some days she didn't wake up in time for work, and other days she forgot to come home at all. Elijah learned how to take care of things on his own. He cooked pasta, cleaned the trailer, and got himself to school. But inside, he was crumbling. Kids started to notice. They made fun of his old shoes, his hand-me-down shirts, the smell of smoke that clung to his clothes. Elijah tried to fight back, but words cut deeper than fists. He began skipping classes, spending hours in the woods behind the school, just sitting with the trees and the quiet. One day, a teacher named Mr. Lawrence found him there. He didn't yell or ask him many questions. He just sat beside Elijah and said, "I used to hide out too. You're not invisible, you know, you matter." That sentence stuck with Elijah like a pin in his chest. Turning points. In high school, Elijah started writing. Not just book reports or essays, but real writing. Poems, short stories, pieces about his life. One story, about a boy whose mother vanished into bottles and whose father was a ghost, won a local competition. The principal read it aloud during morning announcements. Elijah hated the attention, but a part of him, a part he didn't want to admit, felt proud. That same year, Dana hit rock bottom. She was arrested for a DUI and sent to a rehabilitation center. Elijah was sent to live with his aunt in Portland, a woman he barely knew. The city was a new world: tall buildings, crowded buses, endless noise. But it was also a chance to start over. His aunt, Miss Regina, was strict but kind. She made him do his homework, kept the fridge stocked, and never missed a parent-teacher meeting. For the first time, Elijah had stability. He joined the school newspaper, got a part-time job at a bookstore, and started saving money. He still missed his mom, missed the old days, even with all their chaos. But he also started to see what life could look like when someone believed in him. Finding his voice. Senior year was supposed to be the hardest, but for Elijah, it felt like breathing fresh air for the first time. With his aunt's support and the stability of life in Portland, he began to focus. He wasn't just passing his classes, he was excelling. His English teacher, Ms. Ramirez, noticed. One day after class, she handed him a flyer for a statewide high school writing competition. "You've got a voice, Elijah," she said, tapping the paper. "Time to let the world hear it." Elijah hesitated. Sure, he liked writing. He needed to write, but the idea of other people reading his thoughts, his pain, his memories, it was terrifying. But that night, sitting on the edge of his twin bed, he started typing. He wrote about his mother, about the nights he spent alone, about walking to school in the rain with holes in his shoes, and how stories kept him warm when the world didn't. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He wrote like his life depended on it because, in a way, it did. He titled the piece, "Homesick in a House with No Home." Weeks later, an email arrived. "Congratulations. You've won first place in the Oregon Youth Writers Competition." Elijah stared at the screen, not sure whether to laugh or cry. He printed the email and stuck it to his wall, right next to a picture of his mom before the drinking started, smiling, young, proud. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was becoming someone. The college dream, winning the writing competition, changed everything. Suddenly, Elijah had meetings with guidance counselors and invitations to college fairs. Scholarships, something he had only heard about in movies, were now a real possibility. Miss Regina sat with him at the kitchen table, helping fill out applications while sipping chamomile tea. "You're not just getting out," she told him. "You're rising. Don't forget that." Still, Elijah didn't feel ready. Part of him was scared to leave Portland, to leave the version of himself he had built there. And another part still carried guilt. His mom was out of rehab now, living in transitional housing back in Pine Hollow. She called him sometimes, her voice clearer than before, always ending with, "I'm proud of you, baby." He wanted to believe her. He applied to 5 colleges. He only needed one yes. It came from the University of Oregon, a full scholarship. Tuition, housing, books, the works. When he told Ms. Ramirez, she hugged him so tight he couldn't breathe. "You're proof," she whispered. "Proof that it's not where you start, it's where you go." And the world. College was overwhelming at first. The campus was huge. People came from all over Seattle, Chicago, even New York. They wore expensive sneakers, carried laptops worth more than Elijah's trailer back home, and talked like life had never tried to crush them. He felt small again, but he kept writing. He majored in creative writing and minored in psychology, drawn to the way stories could explain pain. His professors noticed him early. One even offered to mentor him on a novel idea he'd been playing with. He called it "The Boy Who Built His Own Sky." In the dorms, he made real friends, people who didn't judge him for his past. There was Malik, a pre-med student who shared stories about growing up in Detroit, and Jules, an artist from LA who read every one of Elijah's short stories and offered brutal but helpful edits. By sophomore year, Elijah had published 2 essays in college literary journals and won another state-level contest. He was even invited to speak at a youth writing workshop, standing on stage with a mic in his hand, facing a crowd of kids who looked just like he once had. And he said, "You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to keep going." The setback. Life wasn't done testing Elijah. During the fall of his junior year, his mom relapsed. The call came late at night. A woman from the transitional housing program informed him that Dana had missed 3 group sessions and was found unconscious at a bus stop with an empty vodka bottle in her coat pocket. "She's stable," the woman said, "but we thought you should know." Elijah hung up the phone and sat on the floor for hours. The dorm room felt too clean, too far from the life he thought he had left behind. He'd been doing everything right, working hard, writing, healing. But her pain still clung to him like smoke. He skipped classes for a week, ignoring messages from professors and friends. Then, one evening, Jules walked in with 2 cups of tea and said, "You're allowed to feel everything. But don't shut us out. You don't have to do this alone anymore." That night, Elijah started writing again, not stories this time, but letters. One to his mom, one to his younger self, one to the boy who still flinched when someone raised their voice. And in those letters, he found something new: forgiveness, not just for his mom, for himself, Full circle, by the time Elijah graduated, he wasn't the same kid who walked into college with a backpack full of fear. He had a portfolio of published stories, a job offer as a youth mentor at a local writing center, and plans to apply to MFA programs across the country. But before any of that, he returned to Pine Hollow. It had been nearly 6 years. The town was still small, still quiet, still tucked away beneath Oregon's endless sky. His old trailer was gone, replaced by a gravel lot, but the library was still there. He walked inside, heart pounding, and found the same chair he used to sit in as a boy. The librarian, now grayer, still remembered him. "You used to read for hours in that corner," she smiled. "I always knew you'd do something special." His mother was staying in a halfway house nearby. He didn't know what to expect. He almost backed out, but he went. She looked thinner, older, but her eyes lit up when she saw him. "Elijah," she whispered, pulling him into a hug, "my baby boy." They sat outside on a bench, sipping coffee from paper cups. She apologized. He didn't say much, just listened. And when she finished, he said, "I'm okay now, Mom. I want you to be, too." It wasn't a perfect reunion, but it was a beginning. A voice for others. A year later, Elijah's first memoir was published. It was titled "The Quiet Ones Don't Stay Quiet Forever," a blend of personal stories, essays, and letters. It became a quiet sensation, especially among educators, youth workers, and teens navigating broken homes and lost hope. He traveled to schools across the country, speaking to students in small towns and big cities. He told them about pine trees, cold cereal, and how writing saved him. In one school in Kansas, a boy asked, "Did you ever feel like giving up?" "All the time," Elijah replied, "but you only have to win once, just once. And it changes everything." Elijah never forgot where he came from. He used his book profits to start a nonprofit that brought writing workshops to underfunded schools. He called it Sky Builders, in honor of the novel he never finished, about the boy who built his own sky. Dana eventually got clean. She never became the mother she once was, but she became someone new. Someone trying, and sometimes, that was enough. Peace, finally. Elijah stood on a stage in New York City, years after his first book hit shelves. The auditorium was packed with high school students and teachers, all waiting to hear from the boy who had once hidden behind library books and silence. Now, he wore a gray blazer, clean sneakers, and a quiet confidence that could only be earned. He adjusted the microphone, took a slow breath, and began. "My name is Elijah Carter. I grew up in a broken trailer in Pine Hollow, Oregon. I used to think my life didn't matter, that my story didn't matter. But stories are bridges, they carry us over the dark parts. And someone out there is waiting to walk across yours." The applause was long, loud, but even then, Elijah didn't smile for the noise. He smiled because of the boy he once was, who would have never believed he'd make it this far. After the event, as he packed up his books and signed autographs, a girl walked up with tears in her eyes. "Your story sounds like mine," she said. Elijah knelt so they were eye to eye. "Then yours matters too. Never forget that." Epilogue: The view from the top. Elijah's nonprofit, Sky Builders, expanded to 25 states. He went on to publish 3 more books, including a novel loosely based on his childhood, which became a bestseller and was adapted into a streaming series. He even taught creative writing at a university part-time. But success didn't make him forget. He still visited Pine Hollow every year. Still walked the gravel road where his trailer once stood. Still sat at the library and watched kids lose themselves in stories like he once had. His mother, now 5 years sober, worked at a rehab center in Eugene. She ran a support group for women trying to restart their lives. On good days, she sent him texts with sun emojis and pictures of the cat she adopted. On bad days, she still called, and Elijah always picked up. He bought a small house with a garden and too many bookshelves. He cooked real meals, kept the lights on, and sometimes just stood on the porch, letting the wind remind him how far he'd come. He wasn't chasing peace anymore. He had found it. Not because the pain disappeared, but because he turned it into purpose. The end.